This is Rich, Hursty, whatever. Been called a lot worse. And hopefully today, the idea here is to just give you some tips, tricks, advice, ways of thinking about approaching presenting from home as opposed to presenting anywhere else you might be used to, I suppose. So massive thanks to the guys at IsoNation for putting this on. Awesome to be asked. Hope I can be help at some point today. Obviously, as soon as you're here, as soon as you're sitting down, comfortable, however you get yourself comfortable for video conferencing at the minute. For me, it's the coping coffee has to be there, instant relaxer. Then just drop us a comment, just to say hi. And then, we know you're here. Otherwise, I feel like I'm in a big room up the front on a lectern with 50,000 notes in front of me and no one sitting in the audience. And we've all, I've done gigs like that. But... So there's a few things we're going to try and cover today. A bit I know is about confidence, just in these kind of things. A little bit is about using some of the tech, and a little bit is about just the kind of things that you've probably got around you, the kind of things that you might not even be aware that are actually really useful for helping you deal with. Is a bit of a strong term, isn't it? But just being a bit more comfortable with where with what you're doing, how you're presenting, where you're sitting, the way you are, what's around you, all those kind of little things. I think I've certainly learned over my years. All those kind of little things will just help relax you, and then therefore see a little bit more of you when you're doing these kind of things. So I can see all the guys here, Bethany, Gemma, and Rachel, some of the team here with us. Thank you, guys. If you sat down now and you're comfortable, let us know. Morning TSG UK. And also, if you want to, and with a couple of the media training clients that I've done recently, even if there's one particular thing, or if there's a sentence or a couple of words that just sum up the sort of the fears or the anxiety or the issues you have with presenting from home. I mean, we've all been kind of thrust into it. We all now have to be kind of able to do it at home, but it doesn't mean you're a pro at it, and it certainly doesn't mean you have to be. One of the things that come onto it, I think one of the greatest things about this at the minute is, do you know what? I don't think it's fair to expect anyone to be able to put on a show, put on a fully well produced, a light shining, sounding tip-top performance from home at the minute, because we've all kind of been thrust into it. We're all kind of getting used to having to do things this way. I don't know what it will mean going forward for anyone who hated like Monday morning PowerPoint presentations. Maybe they're over. Maybe they're done with. Maybe even having to be in on a Monday morning is done with. I don't know. There are certainly going to be some positives coming out of this, but one thing hopefully over this time is it just has forced everyone to kind of have to get used a little bit to presenting. If nothing else, sitting down and being overly conscious about looking at themselves while looking at what they're looking at. It's impossible, and it's happened for years. If you've ever watched, I always used to see it when you watch the football. If you watch the football, and especially at the World Cup, they'll go to the crowd, and someone with some great face paint or a great costume or something is in the crowd, and the camera's on them, and then someone taps them on the shoulder to say, look, you're on the screen. And then they have that horrible moment where they're like, I'm on the screen, but I want to look over here, but I want to see it. It's hilarious to watch. And I think a lot of people are going through the same thing now, with kind of checking what they look like and making sure that they're, oh no, I need to look at you. But we'll come on to that. So just drop us a comment if you're here. Let us know who you are. Let us know what you need to get out of this, if anything at all, or if you're just here for the ride. Drop us in the comments. Let us know. And share it wherever you can too. Yeah, might be finding it more useful. And just chip in whenever you want. Literally whenever you want. I've got half an eye on the comments all the time. So let us know. Get going in a couple of minutes' time, just to get everyone to sit down, comfy, chipping in, dropping out. What's the great thing about, online stuff like this is it's so different to going to those conferences you have to drive miles to, drink rubbish coffee, hang around with a little group before it, and then when you're sort of sitting down, you've got your seat, and about 10-15 minutes in, you realise, oh, I know all this, or I don't think this is for me. You've got to be able to just get up and walk out in the middle of the room. Not easy to do here, isn't it? Just one little click and you're gone. I know. It's fine. It's fine. So just give us one more minute. Anybody else who wants to sit down and join in, drop us a comment just to say hello. Great to know you're there. And again, just drop comments in with any questions, any thoughts. More than happy with that. We've got about half an hour or so. But if we need to stop for any questions you've got, not a problem, not an issue. Let me know. Ping me a little comment. And hopefully by the end of it all, some way, through some little trick or some little technique somewhere, you'll just be a little bit more confident. You look forward to your next video conference, or you'll be actually, maybe I'd love to think, enjoying them a little bit more rather than dreading them. Morning, Dave Guscott. How are you, fella? Good to see you. Hello, Laura Randalls as well. Thanks for being along. Any questions you got straight away, ping them in. I will get to them ASAP. Anything that pops up along the way, let me know too. Doesn't matter. And also, share some things that have worked as well. If you've been doing things recently, if you've had platforms or you've had little things that have helped you out since you started having to do it, especially if you weren't used to having to do online stuff from home or from wherever before, and all of a sudden you've had to get used to it. How's that been? Do you feel like a complete pro now? Do you feel like a little bit of an amateur still? Have you enjoyed finding little ways to sit, stand, talk, frame, light? Got a few little notes on a few of those little subjects coming up. So it's been a bit of an issue before, then don't panic, don't worry. Look, it probably makes sense that I'd start with a tiny bit about me and where I'm coming from in all of this. So I've basically been presenting on the radio in whatever form for about 17 years now. I started off as a journalist and moved to working into sport before I went on to programs in Portsmouth. I was a reporter at Portsmouth at the football for a little while. That was great fun. That was a certain thrust into events that I wasn't expected to. We had Portsmouth in the Premier League for the first time. It was great fun, but a really good learning curve. I learned a lot there in a small team. So everyone had to chip in on doing everything. I ended up doing most shows across the board as I moved around, and eventually got onto breakfast down there, and then moved up to Worcester in 2010 to start presenting breakfast live, as it was called at the time. A few years later, it changed to free radio. And then last year, almost this time last year, big change in networking rules and drives and all that kind of stuff just meant a lot of the local parts of commercial radio were needed anymore. So here we are now. So it's been great to move on and go into some freelance presenting works. I've been working for the BBC over the last 7 or 8 months doing odd bits and bobs there for them. I've also, since I came up to Worcester, been doing a lot of live events. So I've been presenting on the pitch at West Brom for the last 5 years or so. So we do some pre-match stuff at West Brom to camera, and then obviously have like the announcing of the teams when they come out, and the goals and the subs and all that kind of stuff. Really enjoy working for them. Really missing that at the minute. Really missing match days at the minute. Also been doing the same kind of thing for Worcester Warriors as well. We've got a little stage in the fan zone now, where we have bands and guests and all that kind of stuff as well. So hosting that has been good fun. Again, something I'm really missing. And on top of that as well, a few other live events. So over the last couple of years, I've been working on sporting dinners, sporting lunches, where guest speakers there. So it involves kind of welcoming all the guests, normally doing a couple of fundraising bits with people, and then introducing and then doing some questions with a particular speaker in front of live audiences, whether it's a couple of 100 people or filled out some of the rooms at the Chateau as well. And then a few other bits and bobs. Loads of different events, some great stuff for charity. Grace Kelly Child and Cancer Trust, and some Richards as well. No Drop Ball last November was a great event, and really enjoyed hosting a few of those. And on top of that, I've just been moving into podcasting, helping people out with their podcasts. And actually that ties in a little bit with what we're talking about today as well, those kind of tips and tricks of making your podcast sound as real and relatable and natural as possible. So you know your listeners are engaged, which is the most important thing when you're producing podcasts, because there's a million others, literally a million others they could be choosing. So producing podcasts and bits and bobs like that as well. A little bit of media training for people, and also some stuff where I'm helping out with people's on hold messaging and trying to make that a little bit more real and relatable, which always helps. So that's what I'm sort of most about at the minute. I've really enjoyed sort of the creative challenges of lockdown and what it's brought what it's brought to the table so far. We've been trying to think of ways to do business networking in the next generation, or the NXG groups that a few of you might know me from the last couple of years. All sorts of things we're all trying to get our head round at the minute, I know. But the main thing, I think, when you're looking at being at home, and like Rachel says, people have just gone for it at the moment whilst we're all at home. You know, people having to film in their bedroom, their kitchen, home office if they're lucky enough to have one. You have to adapt a little bit. But I think the main thing to keep remembering in all of this is we're at this sort of place now where it's okay to present without perfection. So instantly in these things, it's very simple to think, I'm going on a video call, I'm going on a conference call. This has got to be perfect. This has got to be word for word. This can't stop or hesitate, or like radio, there can't be any silences or anything else like that. I don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true. I think this is really affecting now. We're in a slightly different place. So it affects how we do a presentation and how I think we expect other people to be as well. We're all in the same boat, we're all in this together kind of thing does apply here, really, because a lot of us are still at that stage where we're getting used to doing this. And because of that, don't expect too much of yourself. Instantly taking that pressure off will instantly help, I think, relax you, because being relaxed and being comfortable is probably the way you're going to win here. So if you're not kind of enjoying this sort of new approach to it, then think about how you can. Think about what you can enjoy about it, because for every video conference call you might hate going on, you know, we love going out and sitting around a table with our mates, or we love going to the pub with people. The pub, one day. So that kind of situation where we're sitting down with our mates, chopping and chatting, we're not expecting our mates to sit there and tell us the best story in the best presented way ever. And I think we can kind of apply that to online video stuff at the minute as well. So if you're not enjoying that new way of approaching it, then think of a way you can. You know, don't approach each one kind of thinking, oh God, I hate technology, this is going to be a disaster. Just shift from that mindset a little bit, and kind of, I'm always trying to approach these things in a minute as well. You know, thinking in the way that, well, this could be interesting. Let's see what happens. And it sounds like a little bit of a coping mechanism, but I think it generally can help to set your mindset differently, which then affects your confidence. I mean, you can relax about it a little bit more, and before you know it, I think you'd find that if you've got that approach to your video calls, you'll come across much better. And look, don't worry about adapting to it. Adapting is hard. Like I said, it's about bearing with everyone. I think when I first started at the BBC, I don't know how I managed in the first couple of days, because I went from commercial radio where we were playing something like 12 songs an hour and we only had to talk for a tiny little bit in between. And the first day I got to the BBC, they gave me my playlist. And they said, well, there's your playlist. And I was doing drive time, there were 4 songs in an hour. And it's like the rest is pretty much on you. Now, there's a team of people behind you helping with stuff like that. But it is, you're the person in front of the mic at the end of the day. So that adapting is quite hard. So don't worry about taking a bit of time over that. So I was trying to think of the main problems that you've got potentially approaching going live with people. And it's either confidence in the tech or confidence in yourself. So if you're gearing up to do your first Facebook Live, let's say, the tech to an extent is something that you can't always control. Could be used to it, and it is a lot more easier on Facebook than it used to be now. Literally, you can go live and off you go. I know they have a live producer studio now where you can fiddle with a few extras, but the basics of being able to go live, giving a title and bang are there. So, your company may have some tech people who can talk you through a little bits, but actually you might not need it. It's there and it's quite easy to do. I mean, I'm not that techie, but I've got by with ways of understanding it. I don't try too hard to understand something that's blatantly out of my tech ballpark. So find some ways to get around those if you're not sure about it. But the main thing is being able to have the confidence in you. If you're approaching these kind of things, with I've got to be confident. I've got to be confident. I think if you're sitting there saying that to yourself, you're not in the right place, because the minute something bobbles up or something goes wrong in there, it's going to affect you. But don't worry about it. Kind of remember that it's not about you necessarily, and it shouldn't just be all about you. What I'm trying to say is it's not about stepping up to that. It's actually about pulling everyone who's watching to that level. And this is a big thing I always come back to with presenting, about being relatable, being natural, and being human. It's really important, and people appreciate it. A little bit of vulnerability in these situations goes a long way. So don't worry that the minute your Facebook counts down 3, 2, 1 to go live, that's it. Sit up straight and off you go. Relax, take it easy. Things might go wrong a little bit. There's nothing wrong with being there at the front of that Facebook Live. And I know a lot of people do it, but I think it's not just for them, it's for you as well. It's that kind of like, look, this is the first time I've done this, so hopefully it goes well. And just those odd little phrases, that mindset. I think, again, it's all about relaxing you. First day I covered drive time at the BBC, I went quiet after about 20 minutes because I couldn't get something to work. And it's that feeling. It's the first time I'm doing it. Like it might be the first time you're doing your Facebook Live. And I needed that kind of, I think what I said at the time was like, well, this is no good, is it? Not the first day of the job. Because there was no point in panicking. There was absolutely no point in panicking. And I think everybody listening, everybody the other side of the glass of me were just like, okay, we can handle this. It's not a problem. Don't worry about those problems. Embrace them. A little bit of vulnerability in those positions goes a really long way. Now, on the tech side of things, Gemma's put this idea about whether you use a phone camera or a laptop camera. I guess a lot of us probably are using laptop cameras if it's stuff we're doing from work. And actually, I think that's quite a bonus. But wherever your camera is, whether it's on your phone or your laptop, like the relationship you have with the camera, it's tricky. I know some people absolutely love it. Some people do not want to see it. You've got to try and find a little bit of a middle ground, I think. Kind of acknowledge it, but don't linger. Don't shy away from it. And remember, and some of these are some of the best things to have in the back of your head all the time. Remember, when you're sitting there and you've got 5 or 6 people on a conference call with you at the same time, on Zoom or whatever, just remember that as much as you're feeling like this is all on you and all eyes are on you and you have to be word perfect, you don't, because half the time people are actually, they're listening to you, of course they are, but they're looking at themselves to check how they look, to check which angle, which side of them's best, and oh yes, of course, yeah, I agree, and then I go back to, is there, yeah, okay. So look, half the time people are looking at themselves to check where they are at the minute. It's just the nature of the beast with these at the minute. So just be wary of it. Be aware of that. Take that pressure off you each time, and it will help coming through. It really will. As opposed to where the ideas of where the camera should be. As I said, don't have it too far away from your eye line. Now, sort of today I'm going in between the Be Live studio and some notes. So every now and then I am going down. Not quite got any auto cue things based here where I can look into the camera and see the words at the same time. I know you can get them for the iPad. I'm looking into that. But just try not to be going back and forth too often. You know, like I say, 9 times out of 10, most of us are using my laptop camera, so it's quite close to your eye line anyway. But it's the same kind of principle that I try to apply if I'm doing something in front of an audience from some notes, so like award ceremonies, all that kind of stuff. Yes, we've got notes and we've got things that we need to go through, but being down in those all the time, A, you'll lose a bit of projection of my voice, but B, you probably don't want to see my receding hairline anyway. So it does nobody any favors. But I think being able to go down, come back up, go down, we'll forgive you for going down because we know you've got notes, but just come back up to us, make sure we're there at the same time. It's a great habit to get into. I have to do it a lot at West Brom when we're doing pieces to camera in the pre-match hour. You know, I've got a load of lists and names in front of me, and when we've got the camera here and it's going out to the big screens in the ground, but you know, I'm not desperate to make sure we're there all the time. Back down in the notes, but we're back up with you, back down the notes, back up with you. That kind of balance is really useful. Practice it. If you have other ways of doing, if you're doing things from your phone, but you may be using your laptop to read your notes off or go your presentation from or something like that. I've got like an arm. I don't know if you can see it there. That's where my phone is at the minute, which is strapped to the table. It's about 11 quid, I think, from Amazon, and it's been really useful to kind of set the camera and leave it there. I've not got it resting on books or stood up against a pint glass. I know it's there. I don't even have to think about it. I'm not even conscious of whether my phone's going to slip down and fall away. And again, all those little things that you don't have to worry about, take those out of the equation. Again, leaves you in that relaxed state. And no matter how nervous you may still be about presenting, you still haven't got to worry about those other little things. So having something like that has been really useful. I know you can get all sorts of different stands and things, but the arm has been really useful for me since I got to use that to present quite a few of the Tuesday night quizzes, actually. So, you know, investigate a little bit. Again, people are more than happy to adapt to you. Or if one week you try something else, don't right, well, I've got to be on the laptop screen, I've got to be here, or the camera's got to stay there and I can't move anymore. We're all in that, you know, we're all in the same kind of boat. We're all happy to adapt. We will all bear with you. So you should bear with yourself as well. So don't worry about that. Set it up. Find that way that makes it most comfortable for you. Now, another thing to think about is background. You might be able to stage something or set something up. This is the setup behind me that we have for the quizzes on Tuesday night. And these, I mean, little things. That's my little Lego figure that follows me around. My little M&M's thing from New York. I mean, this, you know, this is a little bit staged for the quiz, but it's quite cool. It's like it's given me my little corner to perform in, I guess. I quite like that. You know, we've been doing stuff, me with some of my mates, where we've been doing like a cook-along. So we have to take the iPad down to the kitchen, all that kind of stuff, and setting it up and putting it somewhere just doesn't, you know, it doesn't quite feel as right. Or we've taken stuff down into the lounge before to play a quiz with my mates on Tuesday night, on Thursday nights. I love this little spot that's set up here. It's nice and comfortable. I've got everything within reach of me, and you kind of almost need to do the same again. Not necessarily because you need to have everything around you, and you must have all your notes, and you must have a pen and paper, and you must have your coping coffee. It's because it's just because it'll relax you again, and there are so many of those little things that will help relax you again, which means invested in what you're presenting. Hello, Caroline Binch. Lovely to have you along. If you've got a question, ping it in the comments whenever you want. You can ping yours in there as well. Don't forget to share the whole thing as well. We've got too. So if there's someone else you think that might find it useful, share it. If you've been on calls with people and they found things a little bit nerve-wracking and you want to try and help them out a little bit more, that's fine. So I talked about dressing things up a little bit, the background. There's nothing wrong with having a bit of you here. Absolutely nothing wrong with having a bit of you at all. Pictures. I love seeing people on the news, and there's almost like a little bit of a competition for who can have the most intelligent books on their bookshelf behind them here. So everyone's removing their Where's Wally selection and they're putting up the Dan Browns and all that kind of stuff. I just think it's brilliant. And again, if that's the situation, those people feel that it's bringing them across the best, then that's relaxing them again, and that's what's helping them be more confident on the camera. Other things about backgrounds, I'd say, these are really general tips, and they may be things you thought of straight away, but just try and avoid things like mirrors and windows for two reasons. Mirrors really for distractions for your audience, because I think if there was a big, massive mirror behind me, it almost doubles the amount of things moving and going on the screen. It's a distraction at any point, and any distractions you can take out, the better. Windows, two reasons. That idea that the light's always changing. So at the minute I've got our spare room window here at the minute with the blinds kind of down, just open a little bit to offer a bit of balance, but having a window directly in the background is a bit trickier to manage. And obviously it depends on your setup. You can't always fix that, but if you can avoid them, because the light will be different depending on what time of day it is, then do. It would just help, again, have one little less distraction in the background. Now, lighting is something that I've only really recently kind of looked at on some of the broadcasts I've been doing. I love that in the comments. Christian says, I've always had War and Peace on my bookshelf in the background. Nice. How many times have you read it? Doesn't matter. Stick it on the shelf. Love it. Lighting thing as well. I've recently kind of looked at, I suppose, fixing or addressing, trying to find a way to just change things up, because I don't have the luxury of being in a huge TV studio, but we do have bits and bobs around the house that can help. Now, when I decided to fix things the first time around with the quiz, I actually borrowed my other half's art light. In fact, I'll show you, because it's a beast. It looks a little bit like the things out of For the World, but once you get past that, it's not too scary. Here it is. I'm not going to switch it on, don't worry. I'm not going to switch it on. But so this huge thing, which my half was using as part of her design work, as like an art line, was actually doubled up really well as a nice little studio light, which you just put over the other side and whack that on. And it does help, I think if you can get an extra light source, as long as you can be wary of shadows, it'll help for what people can see. And I'm not saying you light up all of everything you've got on your face, but just something extra in the background just helps you just not rely on natural light is going to make a difference. I mean, sometimes we can just make a difference by switching the light on in the room here. Although I think we're getting a new light shade. Are we getting a new light shade? We're getting that new lampshade. Is that coming? Yeah. Apparently we're ordering a new light shade from America, and we're painting the ceiling. Apparently. Hey, no, I'll be doing as soon as I finish here. So there's a few little things you can do. Like if you can bear having a darker room with the curtains drawn and a bit of artificial light that you can control, brilliant. But we're not expecting prime time Saturday night TV here. Although speaking of primetime Saturday night TV, I've enjoyed using Zoom recently for the St. Richard Hospice quiz, and being able to sort of almost go into people's living rooms and say hi to them when they're not expecting you has been brilliant. Close I get to NTV from Noel's House Party. There's a reference for you. A couple of questions in the comments. Nick, hello Nick, says it's good to have a natural background and show you in a house or make a professional background. See, I'm all for as natural a background as possible. I think it's got to be where you feel comfortable. You know what you're representing. You know why you're there. And I know, Nick, on yours, you've got your wall at the back. You've got your logo wall at the back, which I think looks really cool. But I can also see a few bits of your office there. I can also see your leads board for the week and stuff like that. And I quite like that, because I've got a bit of an idea about you already just from sitting down and seeing on here. If I'm seeing you for the first time, I quite like that idea. Again, I wouldn't feel too pressured about that idea that everything has to be fully dressed up. I want to see a bit of you, I think, really. Laura Randall says, I keep seeing people doing lives from what looks like their own library. Exactly. They lucky them, they have a library. Or if they don't have a library, they've certainly found a shelf and stashed loads of books on it and decided to frame their Facebook Live from that particular room. I mean, look, I'll level with you. There were other things on these shelves before we started. There were different things on these shelves. There were things like this. I'll show you. this is one thing that little beauty there. Always believe that something wonderful is about to happen. It's nice, but it's not me. Also, originally on the shelves behind me was this little beauty. We kind of got rid of that one. Instead, I replaced it with my M&M's dispenser that I bought in New York, and my bottle of Vedette beer that's got my face on, just because I love that, and my rubber duck that I got from Portugal. But you don't have to go that far to dress it up that way. Gemma says the Noel reference was lost on you. Oh gosh, are you that young, Gemma? Oh, that's painful. Well, Ant and Dec do it, don't they? Ant and Dec click into someone's living room. That's the kind of same effect, I guess, really. Look, if you've got any questions, drop them in now. Don't worry about leaving them to the end. Drop them in now if there's anything else you're thinking about. I'm just going to scroll back up because I've noticed a question there about mics. Dave Gusker. That is a question and a half. You want to know about microphones? Ask a radio guy. Oh no, that's me. So I've got a mixture, and I had a great time yesterday fiddling around with all sorts of different mics and inputs yesterday. So I'm varying. At the moment, I'm using the one on the laptop, and it's actually quite good. Most laptops are built with decent ones at the minute. I know a few people were using USB microphones, which might help have that, if nothing else, have that focus. I've got this little iRig one I was using last night on the quiz. It's tough, really. It depends where you're going to be, how far away you're going to be from the laptop or the mic. Again, with most of these things, we're quite cooped up, we're quite close. But I'll reference Nick. I notice when I see yours stuff either on the IsoNation page or a few other places, you're generally a little bit further back, but I think still using the device on your laptop. Which do I prefer? The device on the laptop, I think, keeps it easy, keeps it simple, means there aren't too many cables running around to worry about. But using a USB mic, using tie clip mics might be beneficial. There are different ways you can plug those in with the little headphone jack or the USB slot, and then there's most of the things that you get now come with easy tutorials to talk about how to use them and plug them in and make sure they're working. I was fiddling around yesterday with a mixer on a bit of software that mixed up my music from the PC and the mic and all that kind of stuff, and it took some time to get used to. And I've been drawing and doodling loads of diagrams to try and get my head around it. So I do prefer, I think, the device in the laptop keeps it easier. Look at this. I love this conversation on backgrounds. Bethany is a Twitch streamer, and I love to show off all my collection of stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great to have a little bit of you in these things. And again, I go back to that point about what people are expecting from these now. Don't feel like it has to be a full-on show. I think if one good thing's going to come out of all of this, it's that we've been sort of forced to kind of do things a bit more real, a bit more natural, a bit more off the cuff, and that means we can't, necessarily dress up in a suit and tie and get our hair done. Well, we definitely can't get our hair done, or shave in my case, and be perfectly pristine and have everything laid out behind us. Chaos might not help behind you. If there's, if you can just find a few things to put there and just organize it slightly, it just helps so much more, because it puts you in that comfortable place, and that will then shine through in what you're doing. Nick, good question. How long should videos be? I suppose the only way I can sort of relate to this point is through podcasting. I've been advising a few clients to keep their podcast to around that 20-25 minute span. Now, originally, that theory in podcasting was driven from people's commute, because the idea was the 20-25 minutes was about the average commute, and if you want someone to digest your podcast on the commute, then you make it that long. But we're in a slightly different place now. Less of us are commuting. Some of us have more time than others to be around watching videos. I still think, and this might just be my own personal thing, but I have quite a short attention span. So I think a video any longer than 20 minutes still has me wondering. I think at around that 10-15 minute mark, I'm going to be wondering, potentially, not always, depending on the subject matter, but I could potentially be wondering what else there is, what else I could be doing. And there's a lot more. A lot more choice now with ways to spend your time online, not just in podcasting, but in video content as well at the minute. So don't feel like you have to fill a whole hour's worth of stuff. 20 minutes, 25 minutes might just be enough. And just like I do advise people when they're podcasting, see if you can find ways to break it up a little bit. And also the techniques that I bring from radio into podcasting, and you can do the same with presenting, is a little bit of teasing, a little bit of breaking up. Nothing wrong with stopping where you are for a second and saying, look, in a little while, 10 minutes time, we want to be talking about this. 20 minutes time, we're going to be talking about this. 5 minutes time, we want to be talking about this. So you can keeping people engaged is such a key thing, and even harder at the minute. That even if you've got a slight little battle plan in your head that your 20-minute video is going to be around 3 or 4 different subjects, then let us know what those are going to be at the start and in the middle. Take a little break for that. And there's nothing wrong with taking those little breaks to stop and say, look, we'll get back to this in a second, but just to let you know, shortly we're going to talk about this. And in a little while, I want to ask you about this, because as a listener or as a viewer, if it just helps me stick around that little bit longer, it's got to be worth stopping in your flow, readdressing where you are, what's coming up, and then going back in. So long and short of it, Nick, 20-25 minutes. But it depends on your content. It depends on your people. It depends on if you're interviewing others or if you just sat there by yourself, rabbiting away like I am. Any other questions, pop them in the comments, and don't forget, share the video wherever you'd like to share it. Whoever you think could find it useful, then pop it around, see what people think. Mike, hello Mike, cheers for your question. It says, is it a good idea to let your audience know how long your video is going to be and what you're going to cover? Without a shadow of a doubt, yes. Without a shadow of a doubt. If you're able to lay that out from the start, fantastic. It's almost like you start at the end. Start where you want people to be when your video is finished. Start with that kind of thinking and lay that out at the start. And there's nothing wrong with that as well. How long we're going to be here for the next 20 minutes talking about this. We're going to be here for the next hour covering this, and before it's over, we'll have covered this. Those kind of words, that kind of language. It is, but it's. There's no point, I think, anymore. Again, like we keep saying with this situation we're in, trying to be overly polished in these kind of environments is not worth the stress. It's not worth the hassle. If you're new to this, or if you're still not massively confident about just physically seeing it, presenting to your laptop, yes, other people are on the end, hopefully, but technically it is you in a room with that little camera and that little light on, and that's it. And if that doesn't fill you with confidence, then you don't want anything else to stress about. Make it as easy and as digestible for you as you want it to be for the person listening. Allow your audience that, because I think they will bear with you at the same time, if that makes sense. I just want to cover something up on sound. I know we covered mics, microphones with that question a little while ago. I think in these things we've all come across the no, you go stumbling block. We've all come across that. I'm chatting, but you want to chat, and oh no, sorry, you go. And you know, unfortunately, with the way the video conferencing programs are set up, there's a tiny bit of delay in there as well. And I don't know about you, but those spaces are massively awkward. I've got quite a sensitive, awkward DAR. So even when I'm watching the news and there's that little bit of delay between the newsreader asking a question and the person answering, I'm already, I don't know why, it's the thing I have. I'm just already cringing and just hoping they get going soon. It might just be an old habit I've got from radio, because in radio, obviously, silence, dead air is an absolute crime. But here, I'm thinking it's a slightly different situation. Silence is okay, all right? Completing what you're saying, even if you hear someone else pipe up, is great. Pausing for that second, letting things go a little bit quiet is fine. It's okay. Embrace the silence a little bit. If you need to fill the silence, use your coping coffee. Absolute beauty, that one. Pens, I'm a shocking for pen clickers. And a few other things like that make you comfortable will help again in the long run. So don't worry about those pauses this time. People will bear with you. Yeah, Nick, what's been your biggest blunder doing a video? So far, touch wood, so good. No massive issues yet. There's still a time to come, and there'll still be something I'll forget about probably at some point. Through Be Live at the minute, obviously I'm coming onto the IsoNation page. I have got to remember next time I do a broadcast to flick back to my Rich Hursty page. Otherwise, goodness knows what kind of content will end up on the IsoNation page. So I'll try and remember to do that. So that could be in anticipation, Nick, the first biggest blunder. If you are deliberating about starting your own videos, whether you're going to go live or you're going to record some bits, I'd say the main thing is to not put too much pressure on yourself. Have a good idea about how you want to start, where you'd like to go, and how you'd like to finish. And don't be afraid of sharing that with your audience. And just remember, we're still in early days, really. Day 37 of quarantine/lockdown. We're still in early days of experiencing having to work like this. So as much as you will bear with people and what they're trying to overcome, they will bear with you at the same time. So take that pressure off yourself, and instantly, hopefully, those others things will help the confidence come up. Laura says, what about if you live with other people? Your lives, sorry, live with other people. Lives with other people. Should you work through what each other plan to cover before it starts, or just go for it? Again, if you're taking the pressure off, you can just go for it. But again, there's nothing wrong in laying things out at the start. Everyone's there for a reason, but to know what's coming up helps get people thinking, helps keep them engaged as well. Just drop through a couple of points at the start. Hey guys, we want to be here for about 10-20 minutes. We want to be here for about 45 minutes, but in that I think we can cover this, we can cover that, and if we get time, I'd like us to cover that. Setting your stall out from the start is never a bad thing. That's why most radio shows you listen to will do the best thing they can at the start of every hour to make sure you know everything that's coming up in the next 60 minutes, what they're talking about, what you're going to hear, and hopefully how it will benefit you. There's nothing wrong with applying that here. Wow. Oh, Mike says, I made a right bodge of a quiz the other night. I went from informal to complete loss of control in less than 10 seconds. Well, you know what, Mike? I don't think people would have really minded seeing that. I really don't. So let it happen. Look, anything else you want to send by, I'm happy to take any more questions. You can find me, either send to the guys at IsoNation or the Rich Hursty Facebook page, or at my website, giftedgab.co.uk is where I'm living at the minute. But otherwise, I hope some bits and bobs of that were useful. If you want to share any other bits and bobs here and there, then go ahead. But thanks for having me, IsoNation. Hope it's been useful, and see you again soon.